Continuing on from part 1 of where I changed the brake lines for my 2021 Ninja 1000 SX. Part 2 continues on to look at the rear brake line. Alright, now that the fronts are done, I'm going to start working on the back. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to take off some more parts of the bike because the back's a bit hard to get access to. So this is the rear, so there's the rear master cylinder, and I've got to basically get up here. So I'm going to start taking off the fuel tank it recommends, and I'll take out the battery and to see how much access that starts giving me. Okay, so I've taken the fuel tank off, taking the side bearings, taking the battery box out. It's quite interesting, taking all this stuff out. So I'm basically trying to get to down, I probably can't even see it at the moment, the brake lines where the junction is. So I can put a torch on it, it looks a bit better. Down there somewhere, so I'll show you once I get closer. Okay, so that's the joint right there that we have to take off. I'm going to start with the bolt that you sort of can just see down there, sort of. We'll take that off, that'll give us better access to it, so it'll just slide out. This will give you a better reference. I've got the spanner, the socket on there where I'm taking it out from. Alright, you can see it loose now. Now I haven't drained the fluid, so now I've got to drain the fluid out of the rear brake line, and we'll do that, take all, and then I'll actually take the caliper off as well because I've got to change the pad, so let's do that. Okay, so I've taken the banjo bolt out here, and I'm just going to take the caliper off now. Basically let it drain. I've took the top reservoir off, cap off there. I just emptied that out, tipped it out, so there's less fluid having to go through it. So yeah, take the caliper off now. And to get the caliper off, we got that bolt, and we got that bolt to take them off. Alright, it's just been cleaning up the caliper. Took the old pads out. Still a bit of life on them, but I'm just going to replace them while I'm here. So I've got the new ones, like the fronts, SBS Street Performance. These ones are 687 LS. Putting those in. Giving it all a good clean with brake cleaner. Now I'm going to use some Bendix brake part lube. So I have to grease all this stuff up, and yeah, we'll put the caliper back together with new pads. So that's the caliper put back together now with new pads. Alright, time to put it on the bike, but first we'll just change that braided line over. Alright, so you can see the line here, so you've got to undo the clips as you go along, all the way up to there. So it's just having a bit of difficulty accessing the little nut here to get him off, and I thought maybe I'll reattach him to the bike, but the problem, this thing was in the way. So there's a bolt that just comes out, a little bit fiddly, but that gets that out of the way. Now I'm going to reattach that back to the bike, and then that should just over that thing should be able to undo easier, and put the new one back on too. Alright, so a little word of warning. I was disconnecting the brake hose off the hard joint. I managed to round off this head. I don't know if you can see it, which has caused some issues, and also I didn't actually grip this, but it's caused damage to the thread. So I don't know how that's happened. But anyway, just watch out for that. Now, in terms of the damage to the rounding off, the spanners I was using, here's a lesson using the right tool. I was just using a 10mm spanner, which didn't seem to quite fit, and I've rounded it off, and without using the right tool, being the
flare spanners, which I'll show you in a minute because I've picked up a set. But long and the short of it is I've basically damaged this pipe, and I looked at getting a replacement. Contacted the supplier for the OEM parts. Weeks or longer it would take to get a new part. Now, truth be told, I'm fast forwarding 1 week from when I did the last work on the bike, but managed to pick up a replacement, something different. So instead of replacing this part, which yes is metal tubing the whole way through, but actually has a rubber here as well, so it's not full metal. So what I did is actually contacted another company who supplied the braided hoses, Hell Performance, in Queensland, Australia. Contacted them. I sent this old line up to them via express post, which took a day to get up there. Within a day, they'd actually rigged up this new line for me with the fittings. You can see the fittings there, and then on that end. Now this is flexible line, and I know some of you are going, oh, you're replacing bloody metal hard line. Well, it's not. It's actually partly rubber. So, and given the actual length of the line, I did a bit of research into that, and this is a braided line in itself. It's not just rubber. This will be fine over that length. So, so instead of weeks or longer, I had this back in 4 days. So hence why I'm only 1 week out, and I'm going to now fit that into that instead of that, and then continue on with the actual hose install. Just on that point regarding tools, so this is a normal spanner, and this is what they call a flare nut. So you can see the difference in terms of how much it's going to wrap around the actual nut, and this obviously with the gap still allows you to go into a I'll just bring this one over, like the hard line down here. I could do that, put that on, so that will actually grip the nut better, and this is what these are designed for. So flare nut spanners. So as I go to replace that damaged line, I've just sort of put that there to look where it's going. You can see it comes here and then actually goes under this wiring harness. So when I put the new one on, it naturally tries to go over, but it'll have flexibility to go under. So I'm just keeping an eye out for that, and then it tracks down down near there. So I'll just test fit it and make sure it's going to be fine. Alright, something I've done here, actually there's a bracket here, this bracket here, that actually holds the two hoses together. This one attaches to this one, and I found it much easier to take the bracket off and attach it. The reason being, the standard brake line, where this bolt goes through, isn't threaded, so it just slips straight through. Now, but with the Hell brake line, it actually is threaded, so you've got to thread it through here, then have that firm against there, and then thread it through here. So you can see it's now attached there, and I'm going to leave that a little bit loose, this joint here, until I actually thread this back through. But I'm going to use that, this actual thing, attach that back to the bike, just as a bit of a template so I know everything is in line. It's pretty fiddly to get to, but I'm going to zoom in here. So that's the bracket there that I had, and there's the bolt right in the middle there. This is the one I was trying to get onto. A little bit fiddly to get to. So that's the test fit, and now I'll just go from there. I may not take that off, I'll just see how I go. Alright, so that's test fitted in there, and down there I actually did have to take that little bracket off again. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to take the bracket off again to tighten that one up. Down, I'll see if I can see it down there. It definitely needs tightening, but I've just got to see if I've got to take the bracket off or if I can get that flare spanner in there. We'll give it a go, but I'm going to tighten this one up first, just there, and that'll be set, and then that one will have a bit of movement. Now the hose is, oh, look, it's, if anything, it's possibly a tiny bit long, but it's fine. It's certainly giving enough adjustment, so that's no problem.
I've got that line fitted there. I've tightened it up. I've just left it loose so you can see that bolt coming out. Just want to check. I'm going to bleed the brakes first, make sure there's no leaks. Also to that, I've fitted the caliper. Put the new banjo bolt in with the new crush washers. Make sure that's torqued up right. I think it's no more than 24 Newton meters. Check your specs. So now just go on to bleed this system. Just make sure nothing's leaking out of the new joints, and including the one at the top near the ABS system, and we'll go from there. Always make sure you use a fresh bottle of brake fluid that's appropriate. .4 for this bike. That's all I'm using. You can see the brake fluid's just started to come through now, all by itself. Like I have been pumping it a bit, but you can see it coming through. So I'm just going to check for leaks now. Alright, brakes are now, rear brakes are now bled. I've checked for leaks, no leaks. I've also had this sealed closed and pumped the brakes to make sure the pads are coming together. I'm going to top up the fluid, and now I'm just going to get all the lines back in place. As you can see here, this is still out, so I need to reconnect this to the bike and just reroute all the lines. So obviously this doesn't go up here. When it's done, it'll fit down properly. So let's get it back all together. Make sure your fluid's topped up, not too much, because when you put the cap on it, it'll spill. Always have rags around too. Thankfully I didn't really need them. There was no leaks, so happy days. Alright, so you can now see the line. It's been a few days since I installed it, hence why it's already dirty. Bit of rain. You can see that line's all installed now. Looks good. Bike's all back together. And this is the actual line that I did from the front master cylinder down to the connector that I should have done in the first video, but you can see this is all now been replaced and looks good. Thanks very much for joining me on this two-parter. If you've got any queries, please send them through and I'll answer as best I can. I do enjoy getting some questions from people, helping them out. If you like this content, like and subscribe. I've got some other short videos coming up in the next few days as well, but thanks for watching. Cheers.